Am I an idiot for not staying the whole night at the hospital with my 7-year-old son and my ex-wife? I'm not usually the kind of guy who runs to the internet for advice, but something happened last night that's made me question everything. My priorities, my judgment, even who I am as a father. So here I am. If I'm an idiot, say it. If I deserve what's coming, so be it. My name is Kyle. I'm 35, live in Minneapolis, and work in IT for a company that basically has me chained to my laptop. I have a 7-year-old son named Mason, who is hands down the best human being I've ever met, and an ex-wife, Amanda, with whom I share custody. We divorced 2 years ago for what seemed like solid reasons at the time, but now, not so much. It started with a phone call on Tuesday afternoon. I was on a video call with a client when my phone started blowing up. 3 missed calls from Amanda and a text. "It's urgent. Mason is being taken to the hospital." The ground fell out from under me. I dropped everything, apologized to the client, and jumped in my car. The hospital was 15 minutes away, but it felt like hours. When I got there, my heart was pounding and I was bracing for the worst. What I got hit with was even worse than I imagined. Mason had suffered a severe respiratory episode at school. He had a fever of 104, was groaning, barely responsive. The doctor suspected a fast-moving pneumonia. Amanda was already there, pale, wrecked. The only thing she said was, "He's asking for you." I rushed to the pediatric ICU, seeing my son hooked up to tubes, his little eyes struggling to focus on me, felt like taking a bullet to the chest. A tidal wave of guilt, love, and helplessness hit me all at once. I stayed with him until the evening. I held his hand, stroked his hair, even though he was sedated. Amanda sat in the chair beside us, completely silent. We didn't argue. We didn't talk. Just watched our son breathe, slowly and with difficulty. At around 11 p.m., the nurse told us Mason would likely remain stable through the night and that parents were welcome to rest in the waiting room or go home. Amanda offered to stay. She said I could go home, rest, and come back early. And that's when I made what might have been the worst mistake of my life. I left. I drove home with the promise that I'd return first thing in the morning. I told myself Mason was in good hands. Amanda was there. I needed rest to be strong for tomorrow. I convinced myself there was nothing more I could do, but that was a lie. That was cowardice. I slept. And at 5:12 a.m., Amanda called me again. Mason had gone into respiratory arrest around 3 a.m. They had to resuscitate him. He was alive, but in critical condition. I flew to the hospital. Amanda looked at me with red, swollen eyes and said nothing. But the look on her face said it all. I was the worst kind of man. There are no words to describe what it felt like to see that fragile little body, even paler than before, surrounded by machines beeping non-stop, knowing that when he needed me most, I wasn't there. I stayed by his side all day. I didn't go to work. I didn't eat. I barely breathed. Amanda never looked me in the eye. She didn't have to. Her judgment was written all over her face. That night, Mason stabilized, but the doctor said it was a close call. If he had another episode without immediate help, he might not survive. Thankfully, Amanda had been there. She called the staff in time. Unfortunately, I wasn't. On the drive home, something inside me broke. I started remembering everything. The marriage, the divorce, the shared custody, the time I'd lost with my son because of work, pride, routine. I started realizing I was the kind of father who showed up in emergencies but disappeared during the quiet, important moments. I began to wonder if I even deserved to be called a dad. The next morning, when I went back to the hospital, Amanda handed me Mason's backpack and said he'd be staying with her until Monday. Her voice was cold, mechanical. The following week, I asked Amanda to have lunch. I wanted to talk, to apologize, to tell her I finally understood how absent I'd been, even when I thought I was doing my part. But she declined, said she needed to protect Mason from more disappointment. I started therapy. For the first time in my life, I admitted to myself that I had neglected what mattered most. I realized the divorce wasn't just about our marriage falling apart, it was also about my emotional absence, my inability to be fully present. So I changed. I started refusing meetings after 6 p.m., turned my phone off on weekends, went to every single one of Mason's soccer games. But there was always this shadow following me, the question of whether it was all too late. 3 months after that night, Mason made a full recovery. He was back to running, playing, laughing, but I still felt like I was on probation, a dad on trial. Then came the Sunday that changed everything, again. Mason was at my place. It was one of those perfect blue sky days. We made pancakes, dumped Legos all over the living room, watched his favorite movie. At the end of the day, he looked at me and said, "Daddy, I still like you even though you weren't at the hospital." It felt like a punch and a hug at the same time. That little 7-year-old boy forgave me long before I could forgive myself. But Amanda? She still had that invisible wall up, polite but distant, and I got it. I didn't expect anything from her, not anymore. The next month, Amanda called and said she wanted to change the custody agreement. Full custody, said that even though I had changed, she couldn't risk another mistake. I agreed, because she was right. I signed the papers. But I never stopped showing up. I still went to every doctor appointment, every school event, every game. I made sure Mason knew I was someone he could rely on, even without the official title. 6 months later, Amanda called me in the middle of a Saturday. Mason had a fever again and she was scared. She asked for help. I rushed over. I stayed at the hospital the entire night. Didn't leave for a second. This time, I stayed. There was no crisis, just a mild virus. But when we left the hospital, Amanda hugged me. The first hug in 2 years. And in that hug, maybe there was a silent whisper of forgiveness. I'm writing this not just to vent, but to ask, truly ask. Was I an idiot for not staying that night? Or was I just a man who woke up too late? Comment, what would you do in this situation? If you like this video, don't forget to like and share so we can bring you more stories like this. Keep an eye out for more stories. Hope you have a good day.